time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Ford?
my preference is to take 291 first.
Thank you. Noted. She said that she would like to take 291 first.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Logan, yes.
I support actually talking about the bill, both of them at the same time, if that's possible.
It is. We've checked and we can open them both up at the same time. My personal opinion would give us better discussion to actually be able to talk about both and make cross comparisons. Is there any other objections to having both, Mr. Onishi?
Yeah, no, I support listening to both of them because it kind of relates to all the same issues anyway. So we might as well talk about both of them at the same time because if not, if we do 291, then we cannot talk about the 59, and so we'll have problems on that.
Correct. And at our last meeting, that was kind of an issue too, that people wanted to comment, but we weren't allowed to.
Yeah,
So if there's no other objections, we're going to do that. Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, will you please read in Communication 824, Bill 291, as well as Communication 229, Bill 59?
Communication 284, Bill 291, 2010-2012, amends Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 1 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2005 edition as amended, relating to Plan Unit Development, PUD. Amends Section 25-6-1, purpose deletes Section 25-6-2, minimum land area required. Amends Sections 25-6-3, application for PUD permit requirements. Amends Chapter 25-6-4, notice of action on PUD. Application deletes Section 25-6-5, procedures for processing application when use not permitted in district. Amends Section 25-6-6, actions by director on PUD permit applications and replaces it with procedure for processing PUD application. Adds Sections 25-6-7, conditions imposed on PUD, and Section 25-6-8, review and approval of final site plans. Deletes Section 25-6-10, criteria for granting a PUD permit, replaces Sections 25-6-11, height exceptions authorized with construction in conformity with approved final site plans, replaces 25-6-12, approval of variances, use permits, and plan approvals issued under PUD. Permit with plan approval issued by approval of final site plans. Amends Sections 25-6-13, effect of PUD permit on other zoning provisions, 25-6-14, time extensions and amendments, and 25-6-15, appeals. Referred to Planning Director from the Windward and Leeward Planning Commissions, September 18, 2012, postponed April 16, 2013. Note, there is a pending motion made by Ms. Willie and seconded by Mr. Onishi to recommend passage of Bill 291 on first reading and close all related communications. And Communication 93 from Mayor William P. Kanuha dated January 17, 2013, submitting the Windward and Leeward Planning Commission's letters and enclosures regarding Bill 29. Communication 229, Bill 59, amends Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 1 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2005 edition as amended, relating to Plan Unit Development, Planning Director initiated from Mayor William P. Kanuha dated March 22, 2013, transmitting the above bill and enclosures with a favorable recommendation from the Windward and Leeward Planning Commission. Amends Section 25-6-1, purpose 25-6-3, application for PUD 25-6-4, notice of action on PUD. Application 25-6-5, procedures for processing application when use not permitted in district, and 25-6-6, actions by director on PUD permit applications. Add Section 25-6-7, community meeting required prior to submittal of an application for a PUD. Amend Section 25-6-10, criteria for granting a PUD permit, 25-6-11, height exceptions authorized, 25-6-12, approval of variances, use permits, and plan approvals under PUD. Permit 25-6-13, effect of PUD permit on other zoning provisions, 25-6-14, time extensions and amendments, and 25-6-15, appeals, postponed April 16, 2013. Note there is a pending motion made by Ms. Willie and seconded by Ms. Poindexter to recommend passage of Bill 291 on first reading.
And we need to actually make a correction. On the agenda, it states that the pending motion is on Bill 291, and it actually should be Bill 59. It was a typo.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Services just came and told me. On the communication 229, up on the top left, it says Bill 59, but where it says note, there's a pending motion on the bottom. It says Bill 291, and it's supposed to say Bill 59. So clarification for the record, there is a pending motion made by Ms. Willie and a second by Ms. Poindexter to recommend passage of Bill 59 on first reading. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So while we can discuss both of them now openly, we can only have one motion. We can only have one motion on the floor. So we're going to have Bill 291 is when we go to vote. That's what we're going to be voting on, and then we'll bring up Bill 59 afterwards. But we're able to talk about both bills right now. But just so we're very clear, when we do go to vote, we'll be voting on Bill 291 first.
Okay.
Any questions or any clarification needed on that? No? Okay. Ms. Willie?
Okay. I'd like to just give a little.
No, it's already, motion's already done.
Are you clear? I'd like to just give a little bit of background here on Bill 291 and how that came about. Just to be clear, that a planned unit development allows for really a wholesale circumventing of laws, of zoning laws, subdivision laws. It's sort of saying, you know, I've got a better plan than what would be for if I followed the laws that you all made. And for that reason, the model across the country is really to always have some review by elected officials. Those who make the law having some role in terms of participating in, okay, you know, this sounds like a better idea just generally. So I think that it's important to keep that in mind, that what it really is allowing each one of those variances, you know, I've seen them 13, 17, is saying, no, you don't have to follow the law here, you don't have to follow the law here, you don't have to follow the law here. So again, one is put in a position of balancing, okay, here's a better idea. And therefore, the public became and continues to be very reluctant for that to be allowed to be basically totally discretionary with one appointed bureaucrat regardless of who it is. The experience has been, and I've been involved in quite a few of these, that the input from the public is minimized. Often you don't even know that this is happening, what's going on. Where, say, there's notice given to those within 500 feet. For example, if something's affecting a watershed, that affects many more than those 500. Or, say, even when there's been a large subdivision, where it would be sharing common roads, only those within 500 feet are notified under any circumstances, under any of these bills. So that's why getting some kind of real public transparency and really significant public notice is important. Otherwise, why bother? I mean, if you were representing someone, would you go down the rules, or wouldn't you pick out, I got a better idea, I want to, forget all of these? And it somewhat undermines that whole system of what is the point of, say, having sidewalks, having distances, providing setbacks from whether it's water areas or different areas. So I think that I just want to stress the importance of the concerns that are here involved. Second, in terms of not just transparency, but the public feeling that they have meaningful input. The experience has been in many cases where the public felt no matter how many meetings, no matter how many it was talk to the hand. This is my decision. I will make this decision. And in Waimea, there were a lot of significant events. The Parkview PUD, which was not under the current director, every single tree was cut down. Every single tree. This is right in the center of Waimea. All the big boundary trees, all the big windbreakers, and it was just heartbreaking. It just sort of happened. Again, with the another couple examples was the Parker School. Again, we had meetings. We had meetings with the developers, and everyone felt all the input was being ignored. That's when the Planning Commission there said, hey, you're ignoring everything this community is saying, and did force that back, and I negotiated with the school, and then we're told, sorry, you're talking to the developer directly. We don't deal with that. We're not going to include anything that Parker School and the community agreed to in writing. So it was just sort of totally a sense of being cut out. Even or let's just say the Puako 1010, which is a current one, is way up near Waikoloa, but what happens around that stream affects all of the runoff into Pelicane Bay. So I just want, again, I'll keep going back. These are very important decisions. There are questions, although this is the model in almost every other state, to have somehow some review by elected officials. In our charter, it does say the final decision, the final sign-off is by the planning director. What 291 does is allows it to go via our council to have that review. It does go back with our recommendations to the planning director. There are legal questions. I would say if one were to determine and agree it shouldn't go to our committee, maybe it should at least go to the planning commissions where there's much more, a higher level of publicity. So I'm going to yield and I'll make some more comments, but I just wanted to give some understanding for those who have been going through really feeling the public is cut out and not having a real say. And so regardless of what we decide, just to keep in mind that really great level of frustration among the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi.
Thank you. Could we get the director to come up? Director Kanuha.
Director Kanuha.
Good morning. You can introduce yourself.
Please.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
You can introduce yourself. Yeah.
My name is Duane Kanuha. I'm the Planning Director Designee.
Thank you.
And this is the first time I've been to this council room. Last time it was upstairs.
Thank you for coming. I just wanted to find out if you had any comments because, you just got on board. The Bill 59 is being initiated by the past director, so I wanted to see if you had any comments on any of the bills.
Well, I think, first of all, I just wanted to clear the record that a PUD is not a rezoning. Okay, well, what the PUD does is allow a landowner that has a certain density to accomplish that density in different ways, and it's usually clustering units in some area, leaving bigger open spaces, those kinds of things. So, for example, if you had a piece of property that you could subdivide into 5 lots, the PUD doesn't change that. I mean, you can't get more than 5 lots. It's 5 into 5. That's it. The density doesn't increase. The other component is that the PUD can't give you uses that are not already allowed by the particular zone. In my review of Bill 291, it seems to me it's going the other way. It's treating the PUD like a rezoning application, which basically, could allow for more density, could allow for uses that are not permitted in the zone or the property that the PUD is being applied for. So in effect, it is, like a rezoning application, which of course, is a council prerogative. So. That was kind of confusing to me, in terms of addressing what the vehicle was and what the apparent problems were. It actually expanded, the intent of what, way beyond what the intent of what a PUD was designed to accomplish. When I was in public service earlier, when I first started working for the county, variances all had to go before the Planning Commission. Over time, the Charter Review Commission took a look at that, and their conclusion was that the administrative component of land use, subdivisions, building permits, plan approvals, they equated those actions as equivalent to like a variance. So that's why instead of the variance going to the Planning Commission, that was in the charter. There was a charter amendment that put the variance back into an administrative program. Same like the PUD. The PUD is a land use variance, but similar to a variance, you can't get a variance to have a use that you couldn't have anyway. Okay, you can't get a use variance. Same thing with a PUD, right? You can't have a use introduced by a PUD approval that gives you uses that you couldn't get anyway. Okay, so it's real similar. And in essence, that's what a PUD is. Now, I think I recognize the concern for how the process, goes. It follows very closely to what the variance procedure is now. Notification, publication, over a certain time period, giving people time to respond. And I think what the previous director attempted to do was to open that up, via these the requirement for the applicant to, conduct these community meetings. Short of creating the process that takes it out of where it is right now as it's structured under the charter, I'm open to other means or other mechanisms that, the council might be interested in trying to achieve that transparency, be more inclusive in terms of how folks can participate in the decision-making process. So that's just my comment there. What she had proposed was one alternative. I'm sure there are others. I'm opening to consider other alternatives if they work in terms of the structure that's established right now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just was looking at Bill 59 and what in section 25-6-7, where it says community meeting required prior to submittal of an application for the PUD. Right now is supposed in this proposal, the applicant needs to go and conduct a meeting with the community and so forth. Is it possible, listening to the testimony that was given, is it if, say, the planning department or the I guess, the Community Development Action Committee be the ones to conduct the community meeting.
If anything, it would be the department.
Yeah. Because the only thing I could see is like maybe funding, because I guess right now in the budget, there's no funding to conduct the community meetings, because you might have to pay overtime to your staff and so forth. So, that would be added cost. But if, say, we agree upon where, that could be amended to that section, and, and somehow we, the council or the administration, can get you guys more money to have, the funding for the expenses.
The applications for the PUDs come and go depending upon what's happening out there in the development community. If things start happening hot and heavy like they did maybe 10 years ago, where we get maybe 10 PUDs a year or something like that, but it's not at that level. So I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see it being a real detriment, to go out and be involved in, conducting these public hearings budget-wise.
Thank you.
That's just my...
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi. Ms. Eoff.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kanuha. I've been trying to do some research to understand if a PUD really is just a variance. I know it's a collection of variances,
Yes,
or several.
correct. Yeah.
But the PUD itself, in looking back at how it was originally provided for, actually is a type of a land use permit. So I have some thought that maybe by changing the authority to issue a PUD and not keep it just with the director would not be in violation of the charter, because the charter does mention variances. But if we look at the PUD not just as a variance but as something more, then maybe another body could accept some responsibility for review, such as the Planning Commission or the council. But I'm trying to figure out now, between the two bills, both of them strike out the word permit in reference to PUD everywhere. And I don't know why. And I really don't think that's appropriate, because then we do start to look at it more like a variance, whereas to give it more transparency, I think we should continue to see it as a permit, as it's originally stated in the code, a PUD permit. Those are just my thoughts, but if we took the two bills and tried to make a better bill, given that I think most of us would agree that there seems to be a need for more transparency at this point. Our communities have changed, and applications for PUDs have kind of changed in nature and have caused some concern in neighborhoods, and I'd like to see us try and find a better way to put the two bills, or some of the intent of the two bills, into a better bill. So I'm not really too sure that those are our only two choices, and that we should, especially given that you're new on board and maybe would like to take a look at all of this after the discussion. I'm not sure whether we need to use one of the bills as a vehicle, such as right now, that could possibly be a way to handle it, but I'd like to hear more comments by the other council people.
Actually, I would appreciate an opportunity maybe to take a look at both bills after, your discussion session, because, like I said, if there's suggestions that are workable in terms of providing more public comment opportunity after your discussion, I'd be happy to take a look at that.
Ms. Eoff? Thank you. Ms. Poindexter?
Yeah, just by you saying that Bill 291 expands way beyond what the PUD was intended for, I'm supporting moving into having this postponed till you can look at something and maybe come back and give us your recommendations as well, as we still have discussion. But you as a planning director, having those concerns me.
Okay.
So I am, if there is a postponement, I'd definitely be supporting that because I think we need to do it and we need to do it well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poindexter. Ms. Ford?
Thank you. I have several comments. First of all, I'd like to add a little bit more to what Margaret said about the history of the PUD. And I'm going to paraphrase somebody who made this type of statement regarding another issue. The PUD code was written for a good purpose, but frankly, it's been hijacked for bad purposes and has gone horribly awry. And let me explain those types of purposes. The current code lacks transparency, and the process frustrates the various communities, allows various administrations to make arbitrary and capricious decisions, and that's been proven out in court. We're losing cases constantly on this type of stuff. It's favoring some developer. It's causing costs to the county taxpayers because of the court cases. It's not adequately protecting the public health, safety, and welfare. And as an example of that one, the new council members won't be aware of this, but us older guys will. And that is the constant approval of cul-de-sacs that exceed the code maximum of 18 and allowing a cul-de-sac with hundreds of residential units, which you can't evacuate in the case of a disaster. So public health and safety has been totally put aside. The public trust and the public resources are always put aside historically. I look at the PUD as a form of rezoning. I know that it's not legally, it's considered an exception, but it is being used as land use rezoning under the guise of variances. And that's a problem for me. It's a problem for the communities that I represent and have represented. And it's causing tremendous uproar out there because these community members look at their properties as being a very big part of their financial package, shall we say, their assets. And when they see their assets potentially being diminished because of some of the decisions that are made by the county, they get very upset. I think that every reference to variances should be stricken from this code. I think it should come to the council. Longer than I have been on this island, people have been fighting these PUDs and the way they're being implemented. And what really kind of bothers me is that we sent this over, we the council sent Bill 291 over to the Planning Director, and instead of getting an answer back on how we could improve Bill 291, we get the crumbs thrown to us. Oh, let's make a new bill and just add a public meeting, and that's going to take care of everything. But those of us who've gone through the PUD process know that just a quote public hearing means nothing. It's a not a loophole, it's a hoop we have to jump through as a developer in order to satisfy the legal requirements without doing anything to protect the public. And that's where I have an objection to Bill 59. It's just another hoop to make a developer jump through that has no relevance to what the community needs are. So I'm not going to support 59, but when I look at this, Bill 291, do I think it needs a few improvements? Yes, I do. I think it does. And I would welcome input from the new acting director. But at the same time, when you look at the history and how this thing has gone so awry over the last 20, 30 years, you can understand, I would hope you could understand the frustration of the community, because how many developers have sat in here and asked for a land use change, a rezoning, and you say, and what are you going to do after this? Oh, we're coming in for PUD so you can wipe out all of the rezoning requirements, and we're going to change it. It's not just a matter of clustering housing. There's actually a whole code on cluster development that they don't need to do a PUD. They're using the PUD as a way to circumvent the zoning law.
Please summarize.
And I object. Thank you. Not to what you,
I didn't think so, thanks. Ms. Willie and then Mr. Onishi.
Okay, I want to add something about the South Kohala CDP. I was on that steering committee, and in light of all of the frustration of little to no public input on both subs.
Willie and then Mr. Onishi.
I want to add something about the South Kohala CDP. I was on that steering committee, and in light of all of the frustration of little to no public input on both subdivisions and PUDs, we drafted a provision for the South Kohala CDP Action Committee, or in the plan, that there be the department provide for input on PUDs, subdivisions, and all other major land use permitting. That proposal was fought by the planning department, but we insisted, the whole committee and a lot of public input, to keep that there. Since then, the planning department or corporation council has said, no, this is illegal, we're not going to include a review of PUDs. Okay, so this has been an ongoing fight with the administration. It is in there, page 148 of South Kohala CDP. So it's been very important to our community, where there's been a lot of development with a sense of lack of transparency and lack of input. I did speak on 59 briefly to one of the planning commissions when there was no proposal in 59 for any community meeting, to point out that it should say that these go to the CDP. If there's a CDP committee, it should go to them to allow them, some of them might be minor, but the opportunity for them to be leading it. Why did we have these action committees if they're not going to act and look at things that they think are important? So in response to that, I think the planning director proposed that the developer hold the meeting. That has been done in a couple of cases in South Kohala, where there are quite a few PUDs going on, and the community was very frustrated. They felt it was sort of a done deal, say at Waikiki Ranch, and they didn't have a say. There was also a sense, and I think what you were saying is that the original intent was, we're going to really preserve something special. We're going to maybe do a cluster, it's close to a cluster development, and preserve this area. But even there, what I'm finding is, then it's, let's put all of these lots over here and leave out this other section. But there's nothing in there saying they can't come back 5 years from now and ask for rezoning of that other piece. There's nothing saying that can't be a commercial. So a lot of what I find as the original intent of saying, I'm going to get away with this, but I'm going to give you something really good. I'm going to preserve this whole forest, or I'm going to do something. I sort of feel that initial, or if you go to law school, that intent of allowing a PUD got lost. So that instead it's sort of each one of these, should they be allowed, how many, what cul-de-sac, should it be, each of those requirements are sort of gone down as if it were just 17 variances rather than this really big picture package. And I think as we come to a point where there's been enough development on this island where you start cutting down windbreaks, it's not just one, like the rain line in Waimea keeps changing, the amount of trees. Or in Kona, you start cutting those and doing that. Does the rain come over the mountain? There's sort of some bigger questions than, okay, do we allow a variance 1, 2, 3? So I just want to, again, say what I'm talking about is also, why doesn't it say in here, it goes to the CDP committee and get their advice, not the planning director or, Darren back there, somebody saying, oh, I think this is consistent with the CDP plan. Get that committee and allow that input, just like where it goes out to Public Works, it should go out.
Please summarize.
Yeah, so where's the role? the CDPs, allowing for that. And we have that frustration there where there weren't enough people, members appointed on the committee, so it couldn't even be heard. But trying to activate and make them real and feel like they have a significance. And second, just underscoring what Ms. Seoff said, this isn't just variance A through D. It is a bigger picture and a different type of land use. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Mr. Onishi and
Thank
then
you,
Mr.
Mr.
Kanuha.
Director, you want to comment to anything you heard, or?
No.
Okay.
Please turn your mic
It's,
on.
Yeah, because, you know, I was,
it's educational for,
yeah.
you know.
And, yeah, and that's what I'm looking at. I mean, Mr. Kanuha is just coming on board, and they see council members like just going at it. I mean, to me, they should have sent their comments to the director prior to this meeting, you know, because then you could look at it. So, you know, what I would really like is to have this postponed so that the director can look at it. Yeah, but before, yeah, and you can go. But, you know, so that you can look it over, and then after you can do your recommendations. And then council members during that period of time, send your comments to the director so that he can look at it and see how he can implement that. Thank you.
Mr. Kanuha?
No, you heard what the concerns are and what the community's concerns are, and we've been going through this for a while since we've been on the council, and getting a lot of emails, phone calls about this PUD process, the lack of transparency. So it's understandable that the community's kind of upset, and I think to work through these two bills would be the best option to whether it goes through the action committee, which I really believe it should go through, and I think you're open to that type of possibility. But just being more transparent with the community, letting the community know what's going on, let the community know that their voice counts is of utmost importance to all of us. So I think you get it, and we can kind of hopefully work with you more on this. I think would be a great thing. But to give you more time and to give us more time to give our comments, relay our community's concerns to you, I think that'd be the best option. So I'm gonna make a motion to postpone. Oh wait, do you want to say something fast, Ms. Ward? Sorry.
Well, no, not fast. I want to talk. I think we should.
Okay. No, I'll
You addressed
just-
that comment to me, so I'd like to respond to
take it
it.
off that.
I don't think the motion to postpone I'm not going to have a problem with, but as long as we finish talking here, the public needs to know what we're each considering as a concern. That's why I don't think we should stop discussion at this point.
Ms. Ford, we're going to have to stop here in a few minutes for the time frame of our agenda, so we either have the option to recess it till later, or we have the option to postpone. This discussion is still going to happen regardless. Mr. Yoshimura?
No, I you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After listening to the comments, looking over Bill 291 and 59, it's clear to me that neither bill is ready to be voted on, because I think both need improvements. As I think postponing this and having further input from Mr. Kanuha would really be helpful. So I would support the postponement when that comes up. Thank you.
Mr. Logan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also do support the postponement because looking over,
Excuse me, that motion's not on the floor. At least have the rest of the discussion first.
Well, yeah, there wasn't a motion made. There was almost a motion made. Right now, it's still open.
okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to talk about these two bills because looking at them both, some of the criteria is also taken out, which I feel will actually help us in making that decision on Bill 291. I felt like 59 had a better grasp of that. So keeping some of the content in 59, maybe adding some in 291, and coming up with a better bill that looks at both bills. Like, for example, the community meeting within that district would be more appropriate than having a community meeting that the PUD is infected in Kona and the meeting is in Hilo. That's kind of a big no-no. So having it within that district would give the community more of an opportunity to attend that meeting and give their input. So I will support, I know there's no postponement, but I will support a better bill that you, Director, soon, if it goes through confirmation, is to look over
Thank you. It is now 10:45, and our next committee meeting starts at 10:45. So I'll be putting this committee meeting into recess until after the finance committee to the end of the day. So we are in recess.
Did you catch all that? 10:45.
Calling the planning committee meeting back to order.
Really?
Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Mr. Kanuha, you don't need, no, I'm sorry, wrong Kanuha. You don't need to come up here. I just want you to know that I'm saying these things not directed at you personally, have nothing to do with any of this stuff. But some of the concerns I have that I want to air in public, not just send a memo to the director or acting director. One of the biggest problems that I have with PUDs is even though they use, the administration says, oh, well, we can cluster things. And Margaret brought up a really good point. 5 years from now, another council can say, all that acreage that you put aside can now be rezoned for something else based on that particular council's wisdom. I'll leave it at that. So, one of the problems that we have on the Kona side of the island, and it's been going on forever, is because of our newer geology compared to the east side, is that we have flooding, massive amounts of flooding. Our forest is being just ripped off the land. Our watershed is being negatively impacted. The floodplains are having construction and development actually in the floodplain. All of these things have occurred just during the 6+ years that I've been on the council, and it's been going on forever prior to me being here. So when we look at these particular lands that we so supposedly cluster in a PUD and leave this other space, I would like the planning director to take a look at, when you do that, we need to have something in this ordinance, and I'm still supporting Bill 291 with some of the amendments that Mr. Iligan suggested, because there's actually a couple of good things that I like from the other bill. But that land that gets put aside, supposedly for open space and whatever, it needs to be dedicated to the county as either open space or watershed or floodplain or whatever we're going to call it. And we don't have a we do have a floodplain ordinance, not as good as we'd like to have. We have no watershed ordinance at all. But these are all public trust and public resources things that should belong to the county in perpetuity in order to protect the public and stop having our watershed eroded and all the silt and everything coming down that floodplain or some new floodplain and disturbing not only the people below it, which would be unsafe, and our offshore waters. So those are some of the reasons that I've had some serious problems with PUDs, because despite the fact that we're supposed to be looking at it, and a court has ruled, 3 courts have ruled that we're supposed to be considering the public trust and the public resources, we keep disregarding them. And we wind up in court and we lose those cases. So the reason I wanted to say this in public is so, not just because I couldn't communicate with you because I can, but I want the public to understand that these are some of the concerns why I don't like having the PUD just be an administrative process. The council should be responsible for these things, especially if the administration can't or won't, and we need to be protecting our citizens. So that's really all I have to say on that issue, but I wanted to make it a public situation. I will yield. You want me to make the motion? No, somebody else wants to talk.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. But I want to stress that the whole climate change or what's going on here, Pelicane Bay, just between 2009 and 2012, has been drastically destroyed. And so that if you take, we all live on a hill basically here. It all goes down. So when we look up where something's going up around Waikoloa and there's a big gully going down there, that gully that we all look at is coming down and impacting so much other area, what's happening to the whole coastal lands. so that when we look at what is the relevant geographic nexus in some of these decisions, I feel one really has to take a look at what is the long-term effect and in terms of cumulative impact. And that's something I think that just human beings, I see we tend to be good at acute. We tend to be really good at emergency, dealing with that. But where it takes
Point
in...
of order. Councilmember Willie.
I just want to stress how we look at things in terms of cumulative impacts, and you can direct your comments to the chair, but stress cumulative impact, and in terms of what public should have an input, have a say. Well, who is the relevant public that will be impacted on any decision? So, thank you.
Mr. Logan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I make a motion to postpone Bill 291 determined by the chair?
We have a motion to postpone Bill 291 by Mr. Logan and a second by Ms. Eoff. Any discussion on the postponement?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
I would prefer that the postponement have a date, because this could be postponed for 2 years, and I know that won't happen. But I prefer to have a date, even if it's a month or 2 months out. I want to be reasonable, because this is a very, very, very big issue, but I want to see a date that we know it's coming back to the council.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. Mr. Onishi?
Mr. Chair, I would rather have it where it's called to the chair, because then you'll be working with the director, so when you folks are ready, then you guys can bring it back.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, do a voice vote on the postponement of Bill 291. To the call of the chair.
Aye.
All those in favor? Sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Okay, so there's 8 in favor, 1 opposed. Mr. Logan, we need to postpone Bill 59.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I make a motion to postpone Bill 59 determined by the chair?
We have a motion to postpone Bill 59 to the call of the chair by Mr. Logan and a second by Ms. Eoff. Is there any discussion on postponing Bill 59? Ms. Ford?
I'm going to object for the same reason. I still think it should have a date, but whatever.
Thank you. All those in favor of postponing? Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
We have 8 in favor and 1 opposed to the call of the chair. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Eoff, a second by Mr. Onishi. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned.
We'll go right into human services.